Imagine standing on the precipice of history, where words uttered in the final moments echo through time. What did the greatest Roman emperors say before their end? You might be surprised by their choices. Last words can be incredibly powerful. They encapsulate a lifetime of experience and emotion in a single moment. They hold the potential to reveal deep truths about character, choices made, and the legacy left behind. So, why do last words matter so much? Consider this. Last words often reflect a person's character. For emperors, their final statements were not merely personal musings. They were statements that could shape how history remembers them. When an emperor spoke, the weight of their words carried significant influence. Imagine if the most powerful figures in history had their last words recorded, how they might reflect their triumphs, failures, or even regrets. Take the case of Roman emperors, known for their commanding rhetoric. These leaders lived in a time filled with strife, power struggles, and ever-shifting alliances. Each emperor's reign was marked by not only their political decisions, but also their public persona, which often came through in their last moments. In these final utterances, we find both a personal reflection and a public declaration, a blend that reveals the complexities of leadership and legacy. Now, here's a strange fact to ponder. Did you know that many of these last words were not simply spoken in the heat of the moment? Some were carefully crafted statements that reflected years of political maneuvering, strategic thought, and self-perception. This meticulous approach to last words underscores the dramatic weight they carried. While we often think of last words as spontaneous, for these emperors, they were often the culmination of a life spent in the limelight, filled with both glory and tragedy. As we delve into the final words of Roman emperors, you may find that some phrases resonate more than others, stirring emotions or provoking thoughts. The reality is that their last words can serve as both a revelation of their inner thoughts and a commentary on their reigns. Some might even argue that a single statement can encapsulate a lifetime of political intrigue and personal conflict. For example, you might think that a ruler's final words would always be noble or triumphant, yet the truth can often be far more complex. The last words spoken by these leaders can sometimes reflect desperation, fear, or even regret, leaving us to wonder what led them to that moment. What stories lie behind those final statements, and what does that tell us about their characters and the choices they made throughout their lives? As we explore the depths behind these final statements, consider the questions they raise about power, betrayal, and the burden of leadership. Each emperor's last words give us a window into their souls, revealing vulnerabilities that might surprise you. You might think you know how these powerful figures would respond to their mortality, but the reality often defies expectation. Throughout history, we have romanticized the idea of a noble death, where leaders go down fighting or inspiring their people until the very end. Yet, as we will see, some emperors face their deaths in ways that challenge our preconceived notions of courage and dignity. Their last words can be both illuminating and unsettling, urging us to question what we believe about leadership and the pressures of authority. As we transition into our next sections, prepare to uncover the profound, sometimes shocking last words of these emperors. Each phrase serves as a puzzle piece in the broader narrative of their lives, providing insights that may change how you perceive them. This journey into the famous last words of Roman emperors is not just about historical fact. It's about understanding the human experience at the intersection of power and vulnerability. Stay tuned as we uncover these complex stories, revealing the intricate interplay of their decisions and the impact on their legacies. What secrets lie behind these famous last words? The answers may just surprise you. What was Caesar really feeling at that moment? The infamous phrase "et tu, Brute" resonates through history as the epitome of betrayal. Imagine the scene: Julius Caesar, the revered leader of Rome, surrounded by friends, only to feel the cold steel of a dagger in his back, literally and figuratively. This moment captures not just his physical demise, but also the profound emotional turmoil that accompanied it. It's hard to fathom the shock of such a betrayal, especially from someone as close as Brutus. In that split second, Caesar was confronted with not just a personal loss, but the weight of a political crisis that would echo throughout history. This phrase has transcended time, becoming a symbol of treachery in many cultures. But what does it truly reflect about Caesar's character? For a man who wielded immense power, his vulnerability in that moment reveals a complex individual caught between the demands of leadership and the intimate relationships that can often complicate it. It begs the question, how did a man of such strength and ambition become so exposed in his final moments? As we dive deeper into Caesar's last words, consider the political climate he faced. His reign was filled with personal and political turmoil, and betrayal was not just a possibility, it was a reality of Roman politics. In the chaos of the Senate, where alliances shifted like sand, Caesar had to navigate a treacherous landscape. His last words encapsulate a lifetime of experience in power, a culmination of battles won, enemies made, and ultimately, the isolation that can come with leadership. This isolation highlights a central conflict in his life, the struggle between personal loyalty and political necessity. Caesar's last utterance also provides insight into the nature of friendship and loyalty in ancient Rome. It prompts us to reflect on what it means to be a leader. Most people think that trust and loyalty are guaranteed in the pursuit of power, but the reality is that betrayal can come from those you least expect. This thought can send chills down your spine. How can a leader ensure their safety when the very people they trust could turn against them? Interestingly, there's a a lesser-known fact about Caesar's demise. He reportedly had premonitions about his death. According to historical accounts, a soothsayer warned him to beware the Ides of March, yet he brushed it off, believing himself invulnerable. This juxtaposition between his confidence in his own power and the foreshadowing of his fate creates a powerful narrative about hubris, a theme that resonates throughout history. The man who conquered Gaul and crossed the Rubicon was ultimately brought down not by an enemy, but by those he called allies. Let's unpack the layers of Caesar's betrayal further. His assassination wasn't merely a singular event. It was a culmination of escalating tensions among the Roman elite. Senators felt threatened by his growing power and popularity among the people. His last words reflect not just personal betrayal, but a seismic shift in the political landscape of Rome. The conspirators believed they were acting in the best interest of the Republic, yet they unwittingly paved the way for a power vacuum that would lead to chaos. What does this all mean for the legacy of Julius Caesar? His last words transformed into a cautionary tale about trust, leadership, and the consequences of political ambition. You might think that a leader's last moments would focus solely on their achievements or a final call to arms, but Caesar's vulnerability provides a stark contrast to that narrative. Instead of rallying the troops or leaving a triumphant declaration, he expressed sorrow over a betrayal that cut deep. Now consider how Caesar's death reshaped Roman history. The fallout from his assassination led to a series of civil wars and the eventual rise of the empire. The very act of betrayal by Brutus and others transformed Caesar into a martyr, ensuring his legacy would endure through time. It's ironic that in his death he achieved a kind of immortality that he could not secure in life. As we reflect on the significance of Caesar's last words, it's essential to understand their role in shaping history. They serve as a reminder of the personal sacrifices leaders make, often at the expense of their relationships. Leadership can be a lonely path, and Caesar's words echo that sentiment. The complexity of human emotions interwoven with the political machinations of Rome creates a narrative that is as compelling as it is tragic. In examining Julius Caesar's last moments, we uncover profound truths about power, vulnerability, and the human experience. These themes resonate even today, illustrating that while the faces of power may change, the challenges of leadership remain timeless. What will you take away from this exploration of betrayal and leadership? How can we learn from Caesar's experience to better navigate our own relationships and positions of authority? As we continue to unravel the stories behind the last words of Roman emperors, prepare yourself to dive into the lives of other iconic figures. Each of their final statements offers insights into their character and the tumultuous times they lived in. The tapestry of their legacies weaves a rich narrative that remains relevant, reminding us that history is not just about events, it's about the people who lived them. The mysteries behind their choices await, and the next emperor's last words might just redefine your understanding of leadership and legacy. Did Commodus truly embrace his fate? When the Roman emperor uttered the words, "I am not afraid of death," he projected an image of courage, but was it sincere or merely a facade? The man who fancied himself a gladiator and reveled in the bloodshed of the arena had a complicated relationship with death and power. His bravado might suggest he welcomed his end, yet beneath the surface lay a deeply troubled individual, plagued by paranoia and the looming threat of betrayal. Commodus is often remembered for his extravagant lifestyle and obsession with the gladiatorial games. He was notorious for fighting in the arena himself, an act that shocked the Roman elite and challenged the boundaries of what it meant to be an emperor. Most people think of emperors as dignified leaders, but the reality is that Commodus blurred the lines between ruler and entertainer. He transformed the imperial image, choosing to engage directly with the populace in the most visceral way possible. In doing so, he invited both admiration and disdain. His public persona was a carefully constructed image of invincibility. Commodus styled himself as a reincarnation of Hercules, wearing lion skins and carrying a club. He would have audiences believe that he was a demigod among men. Yet the question remains, was this confidence genuine? His assertion of fearlessness came at a time when his reign was increasingly viewed as tyrannical. His excessive self-indulgence alienated the Roman Senate and created an undercurrent of dissent. Here's a strange and somewhat amusing fact. While Commodus fought as a gladiator, he was also known for rigging the games. He would often face opponents who were unarmed or inexperienced, ensuring his victories were guaranteed. Imagine the irony, an emperor who prided himself on strength and bravery resorting to such tactics to maintain his image. This contradiction highlights the tension in Commodus's character, a desperate need for validation wrapped in a guise of confidence. In exploring the layers of his character, we uncover the complexities of his reign. Commodus's last words represent a moment of defiance against a backdrop of chaos and impending doom. While he claimed not to fear death, the reality was that he lived in constant fear of losing power. His assassination, orchestrated by his inner circle, ultimately underscores the precariousness of his position. The irony here is palpable. The very bravado that defined him also contributed to his downfall. The nature of his rule was marked by excess and cruelty, with reports of him indulging in wild parties and extravagant feasts. Yet, as his popularity waned, so too did his confidence. The elite who once feared and revered him began to see him as a tyrant, and whispers of rebellion grew louder. In the final days leading to his death, Commodus faced a growing conspiracy. tragedy, culminating in a plot that would end his reign abruptly. Ending the significance of Commodus's last words requires us to consider the broader implications of his rule. His bravado and self-image as a fearless gladiator masked a deep-seated insecurity, revealing the vulnerabilities of a man clinging to power. The fear of being overthrown haunted him, prompting a dramatic lifestyle that further distanced him from the very people he ruled. The tragic irony is that in his attempt to appear invulnerable, he became a target. While his reign is often painted with broad strokes of excess and madness, there's a lesser-known fact that adds depth to his legacy. Commodus had a keen interest in philosophy and the arts. Despite his controversial actions, he fostered artistic expression, inviting performers to entertain him. This duality in his character raises important questions about how we evaluate historical figures. Can a ruler's cultural contributions redeem their darker actions? It challenges our preconceived notions of greatness and villainy. The dynamics of power and fear are central to understanding Commodus. His assertion of fearlessness stands in stark contrast to the reality of his isolation. As we dive deeper into his story, we see that this image of strength was a mask for the fear that gripped him. The tension between his public persona and private insecurities created a narrative that resonates even today. It reminds us that leadership is often riddled with doubts, and that even the most powerful figures are human at their core. Ultimately, Commodus's last words echo through history, encapsulating the fragility of power and the dangers of hubris. As we reflect on his life, we recognize that the quest for immortality and legacy can lead to one's undoing. His story serves as a cautionary tale about the pitfalls of excessive ambition and the lengths to which one might go to secure a place in history. The interplay between bravery and fear, public image and personal reality, weaves a complex narrative that invites us to question our understanding of leadership. In the context of Roman history, Commodus's legacy is one of tragedy and irony. His bold declarations are forever juxtaposed with the events that led to his demise. As we explore the last words of other emperors, we will uncover how their legacies too are shaped by their final moments. Each statement offers insight into their character and the tumultuous times they faced. What lies ahead in this exploration of history's most fascinating figures? The next emperor's final words may reveal even deeper truths about power, vulnerability, and the human experience. What does this transformation symbolize? When Augustus proclaimed, "I found Rome a city of bricks and left it a city of marble," he encapsulated the essence of his reign and the monumental changes he brought to the Roman Empire. Augustus, known as the first emperor of Rome, understood that his legacy hinged not just on military victories or political maneuvering, but also on his ability to reshape the very identity of the city itself. This statement reflects profound pride in his accomplishments, which were not merely cosmetic but fundamental to the city's character and future. Augustus's reign marked a significant shift in Rome's governance, transitioning from a republic to an empire. This transformation was not just about power. It was about instilling a sense of pride and stability in the Roman people. His emphasis on architecture and public works spoke to a larger theme of legacy and transformation. The grandeur of marble buildings and monuments signified not only wealth but also the enduring nature of his rule. The visual representation of Rome as a glorious empire would resonate through history, influencing how future generations viewed the Roman legacy. It's interesting to note that while Augustus is often lauded for his reforms, he faced considerable opposition. Most people think of him as a universally accepted ruler, but the reality is that many in the Senate and among the traditional elite resented his consolidation of power. His reign was marked by careful navigation through political rivalries, where every brick laid in the city also represented a political battle won or lost. Augustus had to convince the people and the elite alike that his vision for Rome was beneficial, fostering a sense of unity in a city rife with discord. This statement also connects to themes of public perception and self-image. Augustus was keenly aware of how history would judge him. His building projects, including the Forum of Augustus and the famous Arapacis, were not just structures but statements of intent, designed to communicate peace and prosperity under his rule. Here's a strange fact. Augustus once declared that he would not take any public office unless he could secure the people's favor first. This highlights his understanding of the delicate balance between power and public approval, a principle that still resonates in modern governance. As we delve into Augustus's legacy, it's crucial to understand the broader implications of his reforms. He established the Pax Romana, a period of relative peace that lasted over 2 centuries. His ability to maintain stability through economic reform and infrastructure projects transformed Rome into a beacon of civilization. However, this era was not without its contradictions. Augustus often portrayed himself as a restorer of the Republic while simultaneously consolidating power in ways that contradicted those ideals. This duality creates a complex narrative about leadership that challenges our perceptions of political integrity. Consider a controversial point. Many historians argue that Augustus's methods, including propaganda and censorship, were necessary for maintaining order. Some may disagree, feeling that these tactics undermined the very foundations of a free society. However, Augustus believed that the stability of Rome depended on the perception of strong leadership. His use of art and architecture to communicate his vision served as a tool for political control, ensuring that his narrative prevailed in the public consciousness. timelessness. Augustus left an indelible mark on Rome. His legacy also includes a cultural renaissance. The arts flourished during his rule, with poets like Virgil and Horace producing works that celebrated Rome's history and ideals. His investments in public works and the arts laid the groundwork for a cultural identity that would endure for centuries. The very marble that adorned Rome became a canvas for expressing the values and aspirations of an empire. Here's a rare fact. Many of the buildings Augustus commissioned were adorned with inscriptions that highlighted his achievements, ensuring that his name would be remembered long after his death. Understanding Augustus's transformation of Rome requires examining the interplay between power, public image, and cultural legacy. His famous quote serves as a powerful reminder of how the built environment can reflect and shape societal values. Transition from bricks to marble symbolizes not only physical change, but also an ideological shift in how Romans perceive their identity and place in the world. As we explore the real impact of Augustus' reforms, consider how his architectural vision created a lasting impression on subsequent rulers. The concept of using public works as a means of governance and propaganda would influence leaders throughout history. Augustus laid the foundation for the notion that a strong state is one that invests in its infrastructure and culture, an idea that persists in modern governance. In reflecting on Augustus's last words and their implications, we see that leadership is often a balancing act of ambition, perception, and legacy. His declaration encapsulates the essence of his reign, a commitment to transforming Rome while managing the complexities of power. The interplay of these themes provides valuable insights into what it means to lead and the responsibilities that come with it. As we continue our exploration of the last words of Roman emperors, we will uncover how their legacies were shaped by their actions and statements. Each emperor faced their own unique challenges, leaving us with lessons that transcend time. What truths might lie ahead as we delve deeper into the complexities of leadership and legacy in ancient Rome? The next chapter promises to reveal even more fascinating insights. Why was Tiberius distancing himself from divinity? The words, "I am not a god," reveal much about the complexities of Tiberius' character and reign. Unlike many of his predecessors and successors, Tiberius was deeply introspective and often found himself in the throes of political anxiety. As the second emperor of Rome, he faced immense pressure from public expectations while trying to navigate the treacherous waters of Roman politics. His statement not only reflects his self-awareness, but also indicates his struggle with the very nature of power and leadership. Tiberius's reign is often viewed through a lens of skepticism and disdain, largely because of the rumors and scandals that plagued his later years. Most people think of Tiberius as a reclusive and tyrannical ruler, but the reality is far more nuanced. His withdrawal from the public eye was partly a reaction to the betrayal and conspiracies he faced, leaving him wary of those around him. This mistrust informed his political decisions, as he began to perceive almost everyone as a potential threat to his power. A strange fact about Tiberius is that he spent much of his later life on the island of Capri, where he withdrew from the political scene. Here he reportedly engaged in bizarre behaviors that fueled the narratives of his madness and cruelty. Imagine an emperor, once at the heart of Roman power, now secluded in an island retreat, indulging in extravagant pleasures while rumors of debauchery swirl. This contrast between his earlier political life and his later years paints a vivid picture of a man grappling with the consequences of his reign. The phrase, "I am not a god," signifies Tiberius' attempts to reject the divine status often attributed to emperors, which was a controversial stance at the time. In a society where emperors were seen as divinely appointed, distancing himself from such beliefs was risky. It suggests a conflict between his personal beliefs and the public persona he was expected to maintain. This leads us to consider a controversial idea. Could a leader's humility in rejecting divine status lead to greater acceptance among the people, or does it risk undermining their authority? Now, many may argue that embracing divinity is essential for maintaining the aura of power, yet Tiberius challenges that notion. Another rarely discussed aspect of Tiberius's leadership was his complex relationship with the Senate. He faced immense pressure to uphold the traditions of the Republic while simultaneously navigating the realities of imperial rule. His distancing from the idea of divinity may have been a tactic to win favor among the Senate, who viewed such claims as a challenge to their authority. However, this strategy ultimately backfired. Instead of gaining support, it fostered suspicion and distrust, leading to a growing disconnect between him and Rome's elite. The challenges of Tiberius' reign also reflect broader themes of governance and the psychological burdens faced by leaders. Tiberius was often caught between the expectations of power and his own discomfort with it. His self-awareness is striking, revealing a leader who grappled with the moral implications of his authority. This introspection is rare among historical figures who often project strength and certainty. It poses an interesting question. Can leaders be effective if they are openly uncertain about their role? Tiberius' life illustrates the complexities of leadership, where personal beliefs can clash with public expectations. As we delve into Tiberius' statement, we also see the tension between religion and politics in ancient Rome. His reluctance to adopt a godlike persona reflects a significant cultural struggle. Many Roman emperors embraced their divine status, using it to solidify their power. Tiberius, however, saw the potential consequences consequences of such claims and chose instead to highlight his humanity. This decision opens up a discussion about the nature of leadership and whether authenticity is more valuable than perception in maintaining power. Another curious detail from Tiberius' rule is his emphasis on justice and law. He took measures to reform the judicial system, striving to uphold the principles of fairness in a time marked by corruption. This dedication to justice was in stark contrast to the image of tyranny often associated with his reign. It raises an important question about legacy. Can the pursuit of justice during a tumultuous reign be overshadowed by the more sensational aspects of a leader's behavior? This contradiction invites us to explore how history remembers figures like Tiberius, often overlooking the complexities in favor of scandalous narratives. Tiberius' last words resonate as a powerful reminder of the burdens of leadership. His rejection of divine status not only reveals his inner turmoil, but also underscores the weight of expectation placed on those in power. In a world where the divine right of kings was a common belief, his statement serves as a striking contrast, inviting us to reconsider what it means to lead with humility and self-awareness. As we examine the intricacies of Tiberius' character, we discover a leader wrestling with the implications of his power. His declaration highlights the challenges faced by those who seek to balance authority with authenticity. The tensions inherent in his reign create a rich narrative that continues to intrigue historians and audiences alike. As we continue to uncover the stories behind the last words of Roman emperors, we will delve into how their experiences shape their legacies. Each statement offers a glimpse into the complexities of leadership, reminding us that even the most powerful figures grapple with doubt and vulnerability. What revelations lie ahead in the stories of those who came after Tiberius? The exploration of their final moments promises to reveal even deeper truths about the human experience within the corridors of power. What did this declaration reveal about Caligula? When he proclaimed, "I am still Caesar," it encapsulated his defiance and desperation, highlighting the complexities of his reign. Caligula, known for his erratic behavior and extravagant lifestyle, often vacillated between madness and moments of clarity. This statement emerged during a tumultuous period, reflecting his fragile grip on power amidst growing opposition. His claim to still be Caesar suggests a deep-seated need for affirmation, a cry to remind both himself and others of his authority. Most people think of Caligula as merely a madman, yet the reality is that he was a ruler navigating a precarious political landscape filled with conspiracies and threats. This self-assertion hints at an emperor aware of his declining influence and the challenges to his rule. Interestingly, despite his notorious reputation, Caligula's early reign began with promises of reform and public goodwill. He was initially welcomed with open arms, and his popularity soared after the assassination of Tiberius. However, this adoration quickly turned into fear and resentment as his erratic behavior escalated. The strange paradox lies in the fact that this same man who once inspired hope would become a figure of dread, culminating in a reign marked by tyranny. A curious fact about Caligula is that he reportedly declared war on the ocean. In a bizarre show of power, he commanded his troops to collect seashells as spoils of war after ordering them to charge into the waves. This absurdity reflects his complex psyche. While he desired to demonstrate strength and control, his actions often spiraled into theatricality and chaos. This incident raises an important question. Was Caligula's madness a facade to mask his insecurity, or was it a genuine reflection of his unstable mind? Caligula's declaration serves as a pivotal moment in understanding his character. The phrase "I am still Caesar" can be seen as an attempt to cling to the remnants of his authority amidst whispers of conspiracy and betrayal. His reign was plagued by paranoia, leading him to execute or exile those he perceived as threats. The atmosphere of fear he cultivated became self-perpetuating as the Senate and the elite sought to undermine him in their quest for power. This notion of leadership through fear raises a controversial point. Some may argue that rulers must exude strength to maintain control, while others may feel that such an approach ultimately leads to downfall. Caligula's reliance on terror and his unwillingness to build alliances with the Senate transformed his reign from one of potential into one of madness and eventual assassination. This evolution demonstrates how a leader's response to pressure can significantly impact their legacy. As we delve deeper into Caligula's story, we must consider the societal context of his reign. The political landscape of Rome was tumultuous, with factions vying for power and influence. His tyrannical acts, including public executions and lavish spending, alienated many, fostering a sense of animosity towards him. This discontent among the elite laid the groundwork for the conspiracies that would ultimately lead to his downfall. An often overlooked aspect of Caligula's reign is his relationship with the military. While he may have projected an image of power, many of his military decisions were questionable, leading to discontent among his soldiers. His insistence on lavish gifts and displays of wealth created a disconnect between his image as a strong leader and the reality of his governance. The strange fact that he would often put on extravagant spectacles for his troops may have stemmed from a desire to distract them from his failures as a ruler. Caligula's reign culminated in his assassination in 41 AD, a consequence of his erratic behavior and the pervasive fear he instilled. As we reflect on his last words, we recognize the tragedy of a ruler who started with promise but succumbed to the very fears he sought to dominate. His assertion serves as a poignant reminder of the duality of leadership, how the desire for control can lead to isolation and vulnerabilities. In examining Caligula's final moments, we uncover a leader whose insistence on authority masked profound insecurities. His story is a cautionary tale about the complexities of power, revealing that even the most tyrannical figures are often deeply flawed individuals. This exploration prompts us to reflect on how power is perceived and maintained, and the costs that come with it. As we continue our journey through the last words of Roman emperors, we will uncover more intricate narratives that reveal the human experience behind the facade of power. Other truths lie hidden in the statements of those who wielded immense authority. Each emperor's story offers valuable lessons about ambition, vulnerability, and the nature of leadership. The next chapter promises to delve even deeper into the intricacies of Roman rule and the men who shaped its legacy. Did Hadrian really believe he could escape death? As he declared, "I am not going to die," it reflects a strong will that marked his entire reign. Hadrian was not just a ruler. He was a visionary leader who dedicated his life to transforming the Roman Empire. His statement came during a time when he faced health issues, a poignant moment that speaks volumes about his perspective on mortality and legacy. Hadrian's reign was characterized by monumental achievements, particularly his architectural projects, which were nothing short of extraordinary. Most people think of emperors as solely military leaders, but Hadrian showcased that effective governance also involves culture and infrastructure. Did you know that he commissioned the famous Hadrian's Wall in Britain? This structure was built to defend the empire, but also to define its northern boundaries. It stands as a testament to his strategic thinking and commitment to the empire's longevity. His architectural vision extended far beyond defensive structures. Hadrian also oversaw the construction of the Pantheon in Rome, a marvel of engineering that still inspires awe today. The Grand Dome, with its oculus, symbolizes the connection between the earthly and the divine, reflecting Hadrian's belief in the importance of art and architecture in fostering a cohesive Roman identity. This brings us to a curious thought. Could Hadrian's assertion of immortality stem from a belief that his legacy would live on through these enduring structures? Amidst his ambitions, Hadrian faced personal challenges that painted a more complicated picture of his leadership. For instance, he dealt with the aftermath of the Bar Kokhba revolt in Judea, which brought immense strife and loss. This incident raised questions about his military strategies and the consequences of his decisions. The revolt was a stark reminder that even the most powerful leaders cannot completely control their fates or the reactions of their subjects. An unusual fact about Hadrian is that he had a deep appreciation for Greek culture. He admired it so much that he referred to himself as Greek. This affinity led him to promote Hellenistic culture throughout the empire, including the establishment of cities that mirrored Greek ideals. This reflects a controversial aspect of his rule. While he sought to unify the empire under Roman rule, he also recognized the value of cultural integration. Some might argue that this approach diluted Roman identity, but Hadrian believed that strength lay in diversity. As we explore his last acts, we see a man deeply invested in his legacy. He arranged for the construction of his mausoleum, now known as Castel Sant'Angelo, a clear indication of his thoughts on death and remembrance. His insistence on not dying can be interpreted as a desire to transcend the limitations of life through enduring monuments and achievements. Understanding Hadrian's perspective on death leads us to consider how emperors grappled with their mortality. Many Roman leaders feared being forgotten, and Hadrian's grandiosity is a prime example of how this fear influenced their actions. The concept of legacy played a crucial role in how they governed, often leading to dramatic decisions. This raises a poignant question. Does the desire for immortality through legacy justify the often ruthless measures taken by these rulers? Despite Hadrian's formidable reputation, he also experienced moments of vulnerability. The strain of leadership weighed heavily on him, and his frequent travels across the empire can be seen as a means of seeking connection and understanding. His tours were not just for inspection. They were personal journeys to connect with the citizens of Rome, showcasing his dedication to his role. This contradicts the typical image of a detached ruler, revealing a leader who was genuinely invested in the welfare of his people. Hadrian's legacy, much like his life, is multifaceted. He is remembered as a builder, a lover of culture, and a ruler who straddled the line between Roman authority and Hellenistic admiration. His final moments encapsulate the complexities of leadership in the ancient world, filled with triumphs, challenges, and a relentless pursuit of immortality through lasting impact. As we reflect on Hadrian's life and his famous last words, we recognize a leader who was not just concerned with his own legacy, but also with the legacy of the empire he loved. His architectural marvels and cultural contributions continue to influence us today, a testament to the belief that while life may be fleeting, the marks we leave on the world can be eternal. In examining Hadrian's story, we gain insight into the pressures faced by those in power. The intricate balance between personal ambition and public expectation creates a narrative that resonates throughout history. His declaration, "I'm not going to die," embodies a timeless struggle that leaders across eras continue to confront. What unique approach did he take, and how did it shape his legacy? Let's delve into the history of an emperor whose love for his citizens remains a defining characteristic of his reign. What made Antoninus's approach unique among emperors? When he declared, "I have loved the people," it encapsulated encapsulated a philosophy that set him apart from many of his contemporaries. While most Roman emperors focused on military conquests or personal glory, Antoninus Pius carved a different path, prioritizing stability and peace during his reign. His era is often described as the height of the Roman Empire's prosperity, a time when the empire was largely free from the turmoil that characterized other periods. Most people think that being an emperor means wielding absolute power and imposing one's will. However, Antoninus Pius demonstrated that true leadership can come from compassion and a deep commitment to the welfare of the populace. His unique approach led to a remarkable era known for its relative tranquility, which historians refer to as the Pax Romana. This term, meaning Roman peace, signifies a period where the empire experienced minimal military expansion and a focus on internal governance and public works. One strange yet revealing fact about Antoninus is his preference for a modest lifestyle. Unlike other emperors who adorned themselves with lavish luxuries, Antoninus was known for his simplicity. This behavior was not just an aesthetic choice, it reflected his belief that a ruler should relate to his people. The Roman populace saw in him a leader who understood their struggles, contributing to his popularity and legacy. Imagine an emperor who prioritizes empathy over extravagance. This was Antoninus Pius. His reign also saw significant legal reforms aimed at improving the justice system. Antoninus believed in the importance of law as a means of protecting the citizenry, enhancing their quality of life, and ensuring fairness. For instance, he reformed the legal code to make it more accessible to the average citizen, a move that was revolutionary for its time. While other emperors might have ruled through fear and intimidation, Antoninus Pius built a legacy of trust and respect between the government and the governed. This brings us to a controversial aspect of his reign. Some argue that Antoninus's approach made him appear weak in the eyes of potential adversaries. Critics of his reign might suggest that his inclination towards diplomacy over military action could have jeopardized Rome's security. While he was beloved by many, would this gentle approach have been effective in times of crisis? The juxtaposition of love and vulnerability in leadership presents a thought-provoking dilemma about how to balance strength and compassion. An intriguing lesser-known fact about Antoninus is that he was adopted by Hadrian, who saw in him the potential for effective leadership. This relationship demonstrates how the Romans valued continuity and stability in governance. Antoninus was not only a chosen heir, but also a figure who understood the complexities of leadership from a young age. His upbringing under Hadrian's influence was crucial in shaping his own policies and ideas. During his reign, Antoninus Pius also took significant steps to integrate diverse cultures within the empire. Unlike many of his predecessors, he promoted Hellenistic culture alongside traditional Roman values, fostering an environment where different cultural practices could coexist. This cultural inclusivity led to a more cohesive society, but it also raised questions about the identity of Roman citizenship. Can an empire truly be unified while celebrating its diversity? Antoninus Pius seemed to believe so, and his actions supported this vision. His governance was marked by a commitment to public works, including the construction of temples, roads, and aqueducts that not only benefited the elite but also improved the lives of ordinary citizens. The infrastructure demonstrates that he understood the needs of his people, but the question remains, did these developments lead to complacency within the empire? While his reign was marked by peace, some historians suggest that a lack of military engagement might have dulled Rome's edge in subsequent years. Antoninus's emphasis on the welfare of his people also had personal implications. His relationship with his wife Faustina played a pivotal role in his governance. Together, they were seen as a model couple, promoting family values and stability within the empire. Their bond inspired loyalty and affection from the populace, creating a strong emotional connection between the imperial family and the people. Yet amidst this admiration, was there an underlying tension? How did their relationship influence Antoninus's political decisions? As we consider Antoninus Pius's legacy, we see a ruler who chose the path of love over conquest. As his last words serve as a powerful reminder of the potential for compassion and leadership. While other emperors might have emphasized strength through military might, Antoninus Pius's reign proves that a deep, abiding love for one's people can yield a legacy that stands the test of time. This brings us to the next emperor, Marcus Aurelius, whose Stoic philosophy further influenced Roman leadership. What does duty mean in the context of leadership? Let's dive into the thoughts and principles of this philosopher-emperor as we continue our exploration of the famous last words of Roman emperors. What does duty mean in the context of leadership? For Marcus Aurelius, it was not just a word. It encapsulated his entire philosophy as a ruler and a Stoic philosopher. When he declared, "I have done my duty," it was a reflection of a life spent adhering to the principles he believed in, even amid adversity. Most people think that duty is merely about fulfilling obligations, but for Aurelius, it was about a deeper commitment to virtue, reason, and the well-being of his people. At the heart of his governance was Stoicism, a philosophy that teaches the development of self-control and fortitude as a means to overcome destructive emotions. Aurelius faced many challenges during his reign: wars, plagues, and political strife. Yet he remained steadfast in his belief that a ruler's primary duty was to serve the people and uphold the common good. This mindset would not only guide his decisions but also shape the Roman Empire's future. One strange strange yet enlightening fact about Marcus Aurelius is that he often wrote his thoughts and reflections in a series of personal writings known as meditations. These writings were never intended for publication. Rather, they were a way for him to clarify his thoughts and reinforce his Stoic beliefs. Imagine a Roman emperor taking time to journal his struggles and thoughts in the middle of a battlefield. This practice highlights a profound introspection that is rare among leaders of his time. Yet, the problem with such a noble perspective is that it can lead to immense pressure. Aurelius often grappled with the weight of his responsibilities, questioning whether he was truly fulfilling his duty. While he aimed to embody the Stoic ideal of a virtuous leader, the reality was that he faced constant external pressures from both enemies and allies. This inner conflict serves as a reminder that leadership is rarely black and white. It involves navigating complex moral landscapes. In terms of public perception, Aurelius often found himself at odds with the expectations of Roman society. Many believed that a successful emperor should be a militaristic leader, one who would conquer territories and amass wealth. However, Aurelius focused on stability and governance rather than expansion. His dedication to duty was sometimes viewed as weakness by contemporaries who valued conquest and glory above all. This controversy around his leadership style forces us to ponder, can an emperor truly lead without the display of traditional power? Another lesser-known fact is that Marcus Aurelius faced a significant military crisis during his reign known as the Marcomannic Wars. These conflicts challenged his philosophy and his ability to uphold his duties as an emperor. Instead of resorting to tyranny or oppression, he sought to understand his enemies and protect his people. His approach reveals a nuanced understanding of leadership that prioritizes diplomacy and compassion over brute force. Aurelius' thoughts on virtue and responsibility extend beyond his reign. He often wrote about the importance of inner virtue, suggesting that the true measure of a leader lies not in their achievements but in their character. In a world where the spoils of war were often the only measure of success, this perspective was revolutionary. It challenges us to consider, in today's context, how do we define true leadership? Is it by the power one holds or the integrity one exhibits? The influence of his Stoic beliefs was further highlighted during times of personal grief, particularly the loss of his children. Aurelius wrote extensively about the pain of loss, reflecting on the impermanence of life. This openness about suffering and duty provides a profound insight into his character. This brings up an essential question: how do leaders reconcile their personal grief with their public duties? Moreover, Aurelius understood the significance of collective duty. He recognized that his role as an emperor was not just about his own actions, but about inspiring others to act virtuously. His writings often encourage others to reflect on their responsibilities towards society. This emphasis on collective duty adds a layer of complexity to his legacy. How can we foster a culture of responsibility among leaders today? As we reflect on Marcus Aurelius and his declaration of having done his duty, we see a leader who was deeply committed to his principles amid external challenges. His Stoic philosophy provides a framework for understanding leadership that transcends time. It reminds us that true leadership is about serving others, maintaining integrity, and facing challenges with a calm resolve. With that in mind, let's turn our attention to the next emperor, Septimius Severus, whose declaration, "I have conquered," encapsulates a different approach to power and legacy. What does this statement imply about his legacy? Let's dive into the complexities of his rule and the impact of his conquests. What does this statement imply about his legacy? When Septimius Severus declared, "I have conquered," it was a powerful affirmation of his military achievements and an acknowledgement of his place in history. Most people think that a ruler's legacy is solely defined by the territories they expand, but the reality is far more complex. Severus's conquests were not just about the lands he claimed, they were also about the stability he sought to instill in the Roman Empire. To understand the weight of Severus's words, we first need to delve into his background. Severus rose through the ranks of the military during a turbulent period known as the Year of the Five Emperors. His ascent to power was marked by chaos and conflict, where several claimants fought for control of the empire. Imagine a world where the emperor could change every few months due to civil war. This was the reality that Severus faced when he took control in 193 AD. A strange fact about Severus is that he was born in what is now Libya, making him one of the few emperors from Africa. This geographical origin is significant as it highlights the diverse nature of the Roman Empire, which included individuals from various backgrounds and regions. Many might assume that Rome's leadership would be exclusively Italian, but Severus challenged that notion by asserting his rule from a different part of the empire. This brings up an interesting point. How do our perceptions of leadership affect our understanding of history? Severus's declaration, "I have conquered," reflects his military campaigns, particularly against the Parthian Empire, which posed a significant threat to Rome's eastern territories. The Parthians had long been a formidable adversary, and Severus recognized that defeating them was crucial for maintaining Rome's dominance. However, the challenge he faced was not merely defeating an enemy, it was also about governing the territories he conquered. Herein lies the conflict of his legacy. While he expanded the empire's borders, he also had to manage its administration effectively. Many emperors before him favored the Senate, granting them a degree of power and influence. However, Severus was known for his autocratic style. He famously declared that he intended to strengthen the emperor's position at the the expense of the Senate's authority. This power shift would lead to a long-standing tension in Roman politics, challenging the traditional balance of power. How do we reconcile the need for strong leadership with the principles of shared governance? One lesser-known fact about Septimius Severus is his emphasis on military loyalty over traditional political alliances. He famously said, "The soldier is my father, the soldier is my mother." This sentiment underscores his belief that the army was the backbone of his rule. His dedication to military support often translated into significant reforms and benefits for soldiers, which increased their loyalty but also shifted the dynamics of power in Rome. This reliance on military support raises an important question. Can a ruler maintain power without the support of the military? As Severus consolidated his power, he also made significant reforms to the military structure. He increased the pay for soldiers and allowed for the recruitment of soldiers from the provinces, which diversified the Roman military and reduced the reliance on traditional recruitment methods. While this was a strategic move, it also led to questions about loyalty and identity within the ranks. As the military became more varied, how did this affect the overall unity of the Roman Empire? Severus's legacy also encompasses the concept of succession. Unlike many emperors who struggled with succession crises, Severus sought to ensure stability by designating his sons, Caracalla and Geta, as his successors. However, this decision did not lead to a peaceful transition of power. The conflict between the two brothers eventually culminated in violence, with Caracalla assassinating Geta in a brutal power struggle. This situation reveals a critical tension in leadership. Can familial bonds withstand the pressures of political power? Throughout his reign, Severus was not just focused on military conquests. He also engaged in significant construction projects across the empire. He understood that a visible legacy of infrastructure would solidify his achievements. One of the most notable was the construction of the Arch of Septimius Severus in the Roman Forum, commemorating his victories in Parthia. This monument served a dual purpose. It celebrated his military achievements and reminded the people of his enduring legacy. Severus's leadership style has often been viewed through a militaristic lens, but it is essential to consider his role as a unifier. His policies aimed at reducing internal conflict and promoting stability. Now, he may be remembered for his conquests. The broader implications of his reign also point to his efforts in fostering a sense of Roman identity among the diverse populations within the empire. This leads to the overarching question of how we assess an emperor's impact. Should it be solely based on territorial expansion, or should we also consider the cohesion of the empire? As we examine Septimius Severus and his declaration of conquest, we recognize a leader who understood the complex interplay between military might and governance. His reign was marked by triumphs and trials, illustrating the multifaceted nature of leadership. The legacy he left behind is a testament to the idea that true power lies not only in conquest, but also in the ability to unify and govern effectively. Now let's shift our focus to Caracalla, the son of Severus, and explore his declaration, "I am Caracalla." What does this proclamation reveal about his reign and identity? Let's dive into the complexities of his character and leadership. What does this proclamation reveal about his reign? When Caracalla exclaimed, "I am Caracalla," it was more than just a declaration of identity. It was a bold affirmation of his existence as an emperor amid the chaos of his time. Most people think that a ruler's identity is rooted in their achievements or legacy, but the reality is that identity and power can be both a shield and a weapon. To understand Caracalla's declaration, we must first delve into his complex and tumultuous background. Born into the Severan dynasty as the son of Emperor Septimius Severus, Caracalla had a privileged upbringing, but it was also filled with intense rivalry. The tension between him and his brother, Geta, reached a boiling point. When Severus died in 211 AD, he left behind two sons, both vying for control of the empire. Imagine living in a palace where your life could end with a single betrayal, a reality that Caracalla knew all too well. One strange fact about Caracalla is that he once implemented a universal citizenship policy in 212 AD through the Constitutio Antoniniana, granting Roman citizenship to all free men within the empire. This was revolutionary and controversial. It expanded the citizenry but diluted the exclusivity that Roman citizenship had held for centuries. This decision may seem benevolent, but it was also strategic, aimed at increasing tax revenues and enhancing military recruitment. It raises an intriguing question. Was this a genuine effort to unify the empire, or a calculated move for personal gain? Caracalla's reign was marked by contradictions. On one hand, he presented himself as a soldier emperor, admired for his martial prowess and military campaigns. On the other hand, he was notorious for his brutality and extravagance. His desire for recognition often veered into cruelty, as illustrated by the murder of his brother Geta shortly after their father's death. This act of fratricide shocked the empire and solidified Caracalla's ruthless reputation. How does one reconcile the need for legitimacy with the willingness to commit heinous acts to maintain power? His love for grand architecture also speaks volumes about his character. Caracalla commissioned the construction of the famous baths of Caracalla, one of the largest and most luxurious bathing complexes in ancient Rome. These baths were not merely places of hygiene. They symbolized Roman culture and civic pride. The grandiosity of the baths showcased showcased his ambition to leave a lasting legacy, a stark contrast to his violent actions. This paradox raises an important question. Can monumental achievements truly outweigh a ruler's darker deeds? Despite his efforts to establish a legacy, Caracalla's reign was often overshadowed by the violence that accompanied it. His obsession with military glory resulted in campaigns that were both costly and unpopular. For instance, he engaged in campaigns against the Parthians, and his relentless push for expansion led to heavy casualties. This approach exemplifies a critical tension. The pursuit of power often comes at the cost of the very stability an emperor seeks to uphold. A controversial aspect of Caracalla's rule was his perception of identity. By declaring "I am Caracalla," he sought to create a personal brand that transcended his family's legacy. This was not merely a statement of self, but a rejection of the conventional expectations of his predecessors. He wanted to be seen not just as Septimius Severus's son, but as a distinct figure capable of shaping his own narrative. But how does one cultivate a unique identity while also being defined by familial ties? Caracalla's rule also coincided with a time of economic strain for the Roman Empire. The costs of war and grandiose construction projects drained the imperial treasury, leading to increased taxation and civil unrests. Ironically, while he attempted to forge a legacy through military conquest and civic projects, his policies often alienated the very people whose support he relied on. This creates a conflict in leadership. How do you balance ambition with the well-being of your subjects? One lesser-known fact about Caracalla is that he was known for his fascination with the idea of heroism. He fashioned himself after the Greek hero Achilles, going so far as to have himself portrayed in art and sculpture as a heroic figure. This obsession with identity and legacy reveals a deep-seated insecurity, a need to be remembered not just as a ruler, but as a larger-than-life figure. It leads us to question, how does a ruler's desire for mythologization impact a real-life governance? His reign ultimately culminated in his assassination in 217 AD, a grim reminder that the pursuit of power can lead to violent ends. Caracalla was killed during a military campaign in the eastern provinces, demonstrating that even the most powerful can fall prey to the very ambitions that propelled them to greatness. This tragic end poses a poignant reflection on the nature of power. Can one truly conquer their fate, or are we all ultimately subject to the forces of history? As we consider Caracalla and his declaration of identity, we find a leader who was both ambitious and deeply flawed. His reign encapsulated the struggle between personal ambition and the complexities of governance. Caracalla's story is not just one of violence and glory. It is a tale of the intricate dance between identity, legacy, and the brutal realities of leadership. Now, let's turn our focus to Aurelian, who boldly declared, "I have restored the empire." What does this statement signify about his leadership and the challenges he faced? Let's explore the legacy of Aurelian and the impact of his rule on the Roman Empire. How did Aurelian achieve this feat? When Aurelian boldly proclaimed, "I have restored the empire," he was making a statement that resonated with both triumph and the weight of immense responsibility. Most people think that restoration is a straightforward task, but the reality is that it requires navigating a complex web of political, social, and military challenges. Aurelian ascended to the throne during one of the most tumultuous periods in Roman history, known as the crisis of the 3rd century. This era was marked by political instability, economic decline, and external threats from various invading forces. Imagine being thrust into power when your empire is fragmented and under siege. The challenges Aurelian faced were not just military. They encompassed restoring faith in leadership and uniting a divided empire. But one strange fact about Aurelian is that he was born in the provinces, specifically in what is now Serbia, which at the time was often considered the fringes of Roman civilization. His rise from humble beginnings to emperor is a testament to the dynamic nature of Roman society, where merit could sometimes outshine noble lineage. This raises a provocative question. Can someone born far from the center of power truly understand the complexities of ruling an empire? Aurelian's military prowess was indeed crucial during crisis times. He not only fought to reclaim lost territories, but also took bold steps to fortify Rome's defenses. A key point to note is his aggressive campaigns against the Palmyrene Empire, which had declared independence and posed a significant threat. His campaigns were characterized by speed and surprise, showcasing his tactical brilliance. Yet, while military strength was vital, how he balanced this with governance is equally important to understand. His efforts to restore stability included strategic reforms. For instance, Aurelian introduced a new coinage system to combat inflation, which had crippled the economy. This move not only helped stabilize the financial situation, but also demonstrated his understanding that military victories alone would not suffice without a robust economy to support them. This intertwining of military and economic policy was a hallmark of his leadership. Despite these achievements, Aurelian faced considerable resistance. The nobility and provincial governors were often reluctant to relinquish the power they had accumulated during the chaotic years. A strange fact about this resistance is that Aurelian resorted to executing some of his opponents to consolidate power. This raises an unsettling question. Is the restoration of order worth the cost of lives and liberty? His ability to restore the empire also stemmed from his keen political acumen. Aurelian understood that he needed to cultivate the loyalty of the army, which had become a formidable political force. By ensuring ensuring that soldiers were well compensated and honored. He solidified their support, which was crucial for his military campaign. His strategy reflected an understanding of the shifting power dynamics within Rome. Military loyalty could make or break an emperor. One particularly noteworthy campaign was his reconquest of Palmyra, a wealthy city that had defied Roman authority. Aurelian's victory there not only re-established Roman control but also restored the empire's prestige. The swift capture of Palmyra sent a clear message. Rome was not in decline but was capable of decisive action against its enemies. This illustrates a compelling point: how perceptions of strength can influence both domestic and foreign support. Aurelian's reign was also marked by significant building projects, including the construction of the Aurelian walls around Rome. These walls were not merely fortifications. They symbolized a renewed confidence in the city's security. They served to protect the citizens and reinforce the idea of a resurgent Rome. But the construction of such monumental structures begs the question: how does one balance the urgent need for defense with the necessity of civic life? As his reign progressed, Aurelian implemented a series of reforms that sought to stabilize the provinces. He divided the empire into smaller administrative units, which allowed for more localized governance. This decentralization was a revolutionary approach, recognizing that Rome's vastness required flexible governance rather than rigid central control. However, this raises another intriguing question: can decentralization truly restore unity in a fragmented empire? Despite his successes, Aurelian's reign was tragically cut short. He was assassinated in 275 AD, allegedly due to a conspiracy within his court. This leads us to ponder the paradox of his legacy. Having restored the empire, he could not escape the very political machinations he had sought to stabilize. His death illustrates the volatile nature of power and the constant threat that even the most successful leaders face. Aurelian's story is a complex tapestry woven with threads of ambition, conflict, and innovation. His assertion that he had restored the empire resonates through history, not just for his military conquests, but for the broader implications of his leadership. His life and reign challenge us to consider the balance between power and responsibility, and the costs that come with restoring order in a world rife with chaos. As we shift our focus, let's turn to Elagabalus and his controversial proclamation: "Let them hate so long as they fear." What does this reveal about his unique approach to leadership and the implications of his reign? Dive into the complexities of his rule and the legacy he left behind. What does this reveal about his controversial reign? Elagabalus, a name that often raises eyebrows, was a Roman emperor known for his eccentricities and defiance of traditional norms. His proclamation, "Let them hate so long as they fear," encapsulates a philosophy that challenges our perceptions of leadership. Most people think that a ruler should seek the love and loyalty of their subjects, but the reality is that fear can sometimes be a more effective tool for maintaining control. Elagabalus's reign, which lasted from 218 to 202 AD, was marked by a series of shocking decisions that often bewildered Roman society. One particularly strange fact is that he famously replaced the traditional Roman pantheon with the worship of the sun god Elagabalus, which he himself represented as a high priest. This shift not only alienated the Roman populace, but also symbolized his commitment to the foreign deities of his Syrian roots. Imagine the uproar in a city steeped in centuries of tradition when an emperor demands that everyone worship a new god. It's no wonder his reign was riddled with controversy. This brings us to a central conflict in his rule. How can a leader implement radical changes without losing the support of the people? Elagabalus seemed to thrive on the shock value of his actions, often hosting extravagant banquets that defied social norms. For example, he reportedly showered his guests with rose petals, sometimes suffocating them under the weight of the flowers. This raises the question: was he simply a misunderstood visionary or merely reckless in his pursuits? In the context of power dynamics, his rule showcased the extremes of leadership. While many emperors focused on military conquest and political alliances, Elagabalus turned his attention to personal pleasures and hedonism. His public persona became a spectacle, leading to a controversial legacy that was marked more by scandal than by any significant accomplishments. This stark contrast forces us to confront a provocative idea: can excess and indulgence in a ruler ultimately lead to their downfall? Despite his controversial practices, Elagabalus did enact some reforms, albeit unusual ones. He sought to integrate various cultures within the Roman Empire, including those of the eastern provinces. His embrace of diverse religious practices, while bold, ultimately resulted in widespread confusion and resentment among traditionalists. This indicates that while he aimed for inclusivity, the execution of such policies lacked the necessary finesse to unite rather than divide. Elagabalus openly challenged Roman norms by cross-dressing and engaging in relationships that scandalized conservative circles. His behavior raises the issue of how gender identity and sexual orientation were understood during this time. The very notion that a ruler could embody traits outside the typical masculine ideals was revolutionary, yet it also made him a target for ridicule and contempt. It prompts us to ask, how much influence did personal identity have on the politics of ancient Rome? His reign was not without significant opposition. Senate and military leaders found his antics intolerable, culminating in a conspiracy to remove him from power. power. The very fact that an emperor could be so despised that his own bodyguards would turn against him highlights the precarious nature of his rule. As his reign spiraled into chaos, it serves as a powerful reminder of how quickly public sentiment can shift from adoration to contempt. Ultimately, Elagabalus's reign came to a violent end when he was assassinated at the tender age of 18. This raises a troubling question. Was his death a necessary conclusion to a reign marked by instability, or could it have been avoided with a different approach to leadership? The swift transition from emperor to history's footnote underscores the fragile nature of power in ancient Rome. His legacy, however, endures, provoking discussions about leadership styles and the balance of power and public perception. Elagabalus's life forces us to contemplate the consequences of leadership driven by fear rather than respect. His proclamation serves as a stark reminder of the complex interplay between an emperor's personal choices and their public reception. Now, let's turn our focus to Diocletian and his profound decision, retire to your own home. What led him to make such a monumental choice, and what implications did it have for the Roman Empire? Let's delve into the life and legacy of Diocletian and explore how his unique approach reshaped the future of Rome. Why did Diocletian choose to step back? The answer might surprise you, as it challenges the traditional narrative of power and leadership in the ancient world. Most people think that emperors cling to their thrones until death, but the reality is that Diocletian, in a remarkable act of humility and foresight, decided to retire from power. This choice marked a significant turning point in Roman history and reshaped the dynamics of imperial governance. Diocletian's decision to retire in 305 AD was unprecedented in a time when rulers typically fought to maintain their grip on power. Here's a strange fact that adds intrigue. Diocletian famously preferred tending to his vegetable garden in his retirement than to wield the scepter of power. This anecdote illustrates his unexpected departure from the archetype of a power-hungry emperor, prompting us to wonder what motivated him to leave it all behind. To understand Diocletian's motivations, we must first consider the immense pressures he faced during his reigns. Ascending to the throne during a time of turmoil and chaos, he encountered civil wars, economic instability, and external threats from invaders. His reforms were revolutionary, including the establishment of the diocesan structure of governance that divided the empire into manageable units. However, even with these changes, he realized that ruling an empire as vast as Rome required more than just military prowess. It demanded a sustainable approach to leadership. He understood that an emperor's legitimacy relied on the stability of the state rather than personal glory. The controversial idea that a ruler could step back voluntarily from power challenges the very nature of authority in the ancient world. His retirement was not merely an escape, but a calculated decision intended to preserve the empire from the instability that often followed a ruler's death. This raises the question, could his retirement strategy serve as a model for modern leadership? After announcing his retirement, Diocletian's legacy continued to be felt long after his departure. His reforms laid the groundwork for the future of the Roman Empire, shaping the political landscape for generations. The implications of his decision to step back were profound. It set a precedent for future leaders regarding the acceptance of mortality and the relinquishing of power. In contrast to many predecessors who met violent ends, Diocletian's voluntary exit highlighted a pivotal shift in leadership philosophy. It's worth noting that his decision was not without consequences. Following his departure, the empire plunged into a series of succession crises, leading to power struggles that would eventually weaken the imperial authority. This complex aftermath illustrates the tension between stability and change, forcing us to confront a controversial point. Did Diocletian's retirement contribute to the empire's eventual decline? The unexpected transition of power following his retirement also created a vacuum that exposed the fragility of Diocletian's reforms. His co-emperor Maximian did not embrace the same vision, leading to conflict and discord among potential successors. The notion that one man's decision could alter the course of an entire empire is both intriguing and thought-provoking. In many ways, Diocletian's legacy is a dual narrative. He is remembered for his monumental contributions to governance and reform, yet his retirement also reminds us of the unpredictable nature of leadership. His life embodies a crucial lesson. Power can be as much about knowing when to step back as it is about taking control. As we reflect on Diocletian's choice to retire, we are left with a haunting question. What does it mean to be a true leader? Is it about seizing power or recognizing the moment to let go? This contemplation echoes through history and resonates with contemporary leadership practices. Now that we have explored the significance of Diocletian's retirement, let's shift our focus to Constantine and his declaration. I have seen the true light. What does this light symbolize, and how did it transform the Roman Empire? Let's delve into Constantine's life and uncover the monumental changes his reign brought to the empire. What does this light symbolize for Constantine? Most people think of religious conversion as a simple shift of faith, but the reality is that for Constantine, it was a profound transformation that altered the course of an entire empire. Imagine a ruler who not only embraces a new belief system, but uses it as a foundation to redefine the very structure of his government. This was not merely a personal choice. It was a strategic move that changed the political landscape of Rome forever. Constantine's declaration, "I have seen the true light," marks a pivotal pivotal moment in history, representing his conversion to Christianity around 312 AD. This decision was both controversial and revolutionary, setting the stage for the rise of Christianity as a dominant force within the Roman Empire. Interestingly, before this conversion, Christians faced severe persecution under previous rulers, leading to the question, how did Constantine navigate this treacherous landscape to establish a new era of tolerance? His early life was steeped in a tumultuous backdrop of civil wars and political intrigue. Born to a family with ties to the Roman military and the imperial lineage, Constantine understood the precarious nature of power. However, as he rose through the ranks, he experienced a vision that would profoundly impact his reign. Legend has it that before a crucial battle, he saw a cross of light in the sky, accompanied by the words in this sign, "Conquer." This moment of divine revelation was pivotal, as it instilled in him a sense of purpose that merged faith with his imperial ambitions. The strange fact about Constantine's reign is that he was the first Roman emperor to convert to Christianity, yet he also maintained many pagan traditions throughout his life. This duality raises an intriguing conflict. How could a leader be both a champion of a new faith while also honoring the old gods? This paradox is crucial to understanding the complexities of his rule. After his conversion, Constantine made significant changes to the empire, promoting religious tolerance through the Edict of Milan in 313 AD. This groundbreaking decree allowed Christians to worship freely and returned confiscated property to them. The controversy here lies in the balance of power. Some argue that Constantine's motivations were not purely spiritual but were also politically motivated to unify a fractured empire. Critics contend that his actions were a calculated strategy to solidify his reign by winning the loyalty of a growing Christian populace. Constantine's establishment of Constantinople as the new capital of the Roman Empire was another key point in his legacy. This move was strategic, aiming to create a new Rome that blended Roman and Christian ideals. The city was positioned at a crossroads of trade and culture, emphasizing the significance of Christianity in the empire's future. Did this transformation signal the beginning of a new era for the Roman Empire? Interestingly, the construction of the great churches in Constantinople signified more than just a change in architecture. It represented a shift in societal values. Christianity began to permeate every aspect of Roman life, altering not just governance but also art, philosophy, and daily life. The conflict here is palpable. While many embraced this shift, others felt threatened, leading to tensions that would reverberate throughout history. One cannot overlook the broader implications of Constantine's reign. His conversion and subsequent policies laid the groundwork for the eventual establishment of Christianity as the state religion under his successors. This monumental change begs the question, how did this reshape the identity of the Roman Empire? As we explore Constantine's legacy, we also encounter the lasting impacts of his decisions. The Council of Nicaea in 325 AD, which he convened to address the Arian controversy within Christianity, highlighted his role as a mediator and an authority in religious matters. This involvement marks a departure from the traditional separation of church and state, sparking debates about the intertwining of religion and politics that continue to this day. Constantine's life encapsulates a remarkable journey from a soldier to a statesman who bridged the chasm between paganism and Christianity. Yet it leaves us pondering a controversial idea. Was his conversion genuine, or was it merely a strategic maneuver? In conclusion, Constantine's declaration of having seen the true light was more than a personal transformation. It was a seismic shift in the fabric of Roman society. His legacy endures as one of the most significant figures in both Roman and Christian history. Now, as we consider the implications of his choices, let's delve into Justinian's assertion, "We have conquered, we have built." So big for the future of the empire, and how did it shape the world that followed? What did this conquest mean for the empire's future? Most people think of emperors as mere rulers, but the reality is that their legacies shape the very fabric of history. Justinian, with his declaration, "We have conquered, we have built," epitomizes this truth. He wasn't just an emperor, he was a visionary who saw beyond the immediate struggles of his time, aiming to create a lasting impact on the Byzantine Empire. Justinian's reign from 527 to 565 AD is marked by both military triumphs and ambitious architectural endeavors. He inherited an empire that was recovering from the chaos of the previous centuries, and he set out to restore its former glory. This brings us to an intriguing fact. Under Justinian's leadership, the Byzantine Empire expanded to its greatest territorial extent since the Roman Empire. How did he manage to achieve this during such tumultuous times? One of the most notable aspects of Justinian's rule was his military campaigns, particularly those led by his general Belisarius. Together, they reconquered significant portions of the Western Roman Empire, including North Africa and parts of Italy. This military strategy raises an important question. Was his focus on expansion a wise decision, or did it stretch the empire's resources too thin? Critics argue that while these victories were impressive, they were costly and ultimately unsustainable. A strange but fascinating fact about Justinian is that he often used the law as a tool for consolidation. His codification of Roman law, known as the Corpus Juris Civilis, not only reorganized legal codes but also reinforced his authority as a ruler. This monumental work served a dual purpose. It provided a legal foundation for the empire and demonstrated Justinian's commitment to restoring Rome's legacy. However, it also sparked controversy as it centralized power, which some viewed as a threat to the traditional systems of governance. The question remains, did this legal reform strengthen or weaken the empire in the long run? As we examine Justinian's architectural achievements, we find that his vision extended beyond conquest. The most famous of his projects is the Hagia Sophia, an architectural marvel that still stands today. It wasn't just a church, it was a statement of Byzantine glory. Did you know that the Hagia Sophia was the largest cathedral in the world for nearly 1,000 years? This magnificent structure symbolizes the fusion of Christian and imperial power, showcasing Justinian's desire to leave a lasting mark on the world. However, while many celebrated its beauty, others criticized the enormous resources spent on such grand projects during a time of war and famine. One of the most significant elements of Justinian's legacy is the balance he sought between military power and cultural flourishing. His reign witnessed a renaissance of arts and learning. The Byzantine Empire became a hub of culture, attracting scholars and artists. Yet this cultural revitalization begs the question, could such a flourishing be sustained amid ongoing military conflict? Critics argue that the pressure of constant warfare undermined these cultural achievements. Moreover, Justinian faced significant internal challenges, including revolts and religious strife. The Nika riots of 532 AD threatened to How did he manage to quell such unrest? Through strategic maneuvering and ruthless suppression, he emerged victorious, but at a high cost. This episode illustrates the delicate balance between maintaining order and the risk of alienating his subjects. It forces us to ponder, was Justinian's rule characterized by strength or insecurity? In the realm of religion, Justinian's commitment to orthodoxy was both a unifying force and a source of division. His attempts to suppress heretical beliefs led to tension with various sects within the empire. This raises a controversial point. While some hailed him as a champion of faith, others viewed his actions as oppressive. Did Justinian's zeal for orthodoxy ultimately serve the empire or sow discord among its people? Justinian's ambitious undertakings left a profound impact, but they were not without drawback. The empire faced significant financial strain due to his military campaigns and extensive building projects. The question arises, did his pursuit of greatness lead to long-term stability or eventual decline? In conclusion, Justinian's assertion, "We have conquered, we have built," reflects a complex legacy that encompasses triumphs and tribulations. His reign marked a high point for the Byzantine Empire, characterized by military conquests, architectural marvels, and cultural revitalization. Yet, the challenges he faced remind us that greatness often comes with a price. As we reflect on his accomplishments and shortcomings, we must consider how his legacy shapes our understanding of leadership and governance. What lessons can we draw from his life as we navigate the complexities of power in our world today? What does this phrase imply about historical judgment? Most people think that a leader's legacy is secured by their actions during their lifetime, but the reality is that history often reshapes their narratives in unexpected ways. The final words of the unnamed emperor, "History will decide," encapsulate this truth, revealing a deep uncertainty about how one's legacy will be perceived in the future. The phrase evokes a mystery. What determines how we remember leaders? This unnamed emperor's resignation to historical judgment suggests a recognition that control over one's legacy is limited. As we delve into this, let's consider the long arc of history, where perspectives shift and new interpretations emerge. Strange yet thought-provoking fact is that many emperors once vilified in their time have been rehabilitated by later generations. For instance, consider the infamous Caligula, whose madness led to his downfall. Initially viewed as a tyrant, modern historians have begun to reassess his reign, suggesting that the accounts of his cruelty were exaggerated by political adversaries. Hence, this raises a compelling question. How much of history is shaped by the victors and their narratives? This leads us to a controversial point. While many believe that a ruler's merits and failures should be assessed based solely on their reign, historians often argue that context matters significantly. Factors such as political climate, societal norms, and even the biases of historical records play critical roles in shaping a leader's legacy. This nuance invites viewers to reflect. Should we separate a leader's actions from their historical context, or is it essential to understand the world in which they operated? Consider the power dynamics at play. In ancient Rome, public perception was crucial for maintaining authority. Emperors could easily find themselves at the mercy of gossip and rumor. Take the case of Elagabalus, often remembered for his eccentric behavior and controversial decisions. While he ruled for a short time, his legacy remains divisive, primarily due to the stark contrast between his reign and the traditional values of Rome. How did his decisions resonate with the people of his time, and what do they reflect about the broader societal shifts? As we navigate this complex landscape of historical judgment, we must also confront the darker side of legacy. History is not always kind. Figures once revered can become cautionary tales. The last words of emperors echo this sentiment, reminding us that a leader's actions may haunt them long after their demise. Did you know that some Roman emperors had their names erased from public records as a form of damnatio memoria? This practice underscores the ultimate control society exerts over a leader's legacy, often deeming them unworthy of remembrance. Additionally, consider the the varying interpretations of what constitutes a successful reign. For some, it's about territorial expansion. For others, it's about the welfare of the populace. Justinian's reign exemplifies this tension. As his military conquests were celebrated, yet the burdens they imposed on the empire led to significant hardships for many citizens. The paradox of his legacy raises an important question. Can military might coexist with humanitarian concerns, or are they fundamentally at odds? Exploring further, we encounter the influence of art and culture in shaping legacies. While military achievements might dominate the headlines, the contributions to art and philosophy can resonate more profoundly in the long run. Constantine's conversion to Christianity transformed the religious landscape of the empire. His legacy is intertwined with the establishment of Christian orthodoxy, yet his methods sparked considerable controversy. Did his actions promote genuine faith, or were they politically motivated? This exploration of legacies also prompts us to think about our perceptions today. The legacy of an emperor can shift dramatically based on contemporary values. In a world increasingly focused on social justice and equality, figures like Marcus Aurelius, once lauded for their Stoic philosophy, now face scrutiny regarding their views on governance and power. How will future generations judge us for our actions? This question hangs heavily over historical figures, much like a sword of Damocles. To understand how we arrived at these diverse interpretations, one must delve into the archival materials left behind. Letters, decrees, and even poetry provide insights into the thoughts and feelings of leaders. However, as we sift through these materials, we encounter another problem. Bias is inherent in the writings. Often, the most privileged perspectives are the only ones preserved. This inequity invites skepticism about whose voices are truly represented in history. In examining these layers, we discover that the act of remembering is itself an art. While some figures may fade into obscurity, others take on mythic proportions, becoming symbols of broader narratives. As history progresses, reinterpretations emerge, often propelled by societal changes. The legacy of an emperor can transform from tyrant to visionary, depending on who is telling the story. Ultimately, the phrase "history will decide" serves as both a warning and a reminder. It challenges us to contemplate the intricacies of legacy and the powerful currents of time that shape our understanding of the past. As we reflect on the emperors of Rome and their last words, we recognize the fragility of their legacies. It compels us to consider how our actions will be viewed through the lens of history, perhaps urging us to live in ways that prioritize authenticity and integrity. By unraveling these complexities, we've gained a deeper appreciation for the fleeting nature of legacy. Each emperor's fate illustrates the myriad ways in which history can be interpreted. In the end, as we navigate our paths, the echoes of their final words remind us that how we are remembered is a story still being written. If you enjoyed this epic journey, please subscribe to our channel for more thrilling historical tales. Don't miss out on new videos. Hit the notification bell to stay updated.